Hello, this is Meeting of the Crossroads InnerCartography monthly report, and it is July 28th, 2021. So what you've got in front of you here is the spreadsheet of the keys as they do show up in the just now chart. I've left out a couple of them. I've left out the moon and the north node and the south node because they change so quickly that by the time I pull it and then talk to you guys, it may have already changed, right? So earlier and I was talking about gate 31, right here. We have gate 31 in the sun, and this is the arrogance, leadership, and humility aspect of things. A quick note on the essence side, the humility side, all of the essences, those are things that we allow to come into us. They are not aspects where we are trying to rise into that, because we'll still be in our ego. That's a thing where we allow it to come through. So it's a thing that more comes into us. The gift is what we rise up into, and the shadow is the thing that we have to learn to see. We don't burn the shadows. We don't get rid of the shadows. They are our fodder to reach towards our gifts. And here's a really cool way to look at it. When you look at the essence column, imagine it as one big circle. Imagine what it must be for an essence being, a spirit being, to come down into human skin bag form and experience what it is like to be human. Their first experience would be that of a shadow frequency, right? If humility as a being came into human form, knowing all the things that it knows, but with the limitations of human form, it might come off as rather arrogant. It has to learn the realm of humans, because the realm that it came from didn't have no such rules as we have here. Right? So it helps to soften and lighten that shadow aspect, where it becomes more of how can we befriend our shadows. It's really hard to get to know something when you hate it, when you despise it, or when you're scared of it. But if you look for it in a way that is like, hey, what you doing over here? What you trying to show me? In the case of arrogance, it's the world wide web of words. So it can get wrapped up in all sorts of words, but it can also go so quickly that what it misses is the ability to really ground into what it's saying and share something in a really profound way. Where leadership, the heart branding side of that, is a deep listening. It's a deep understanding of what is going on inside of the person through deep observation. It's an influential leadership. It's not so much a leadership that says, you're going to follow me, or hey, everybody follow me. It's more of a leadership that provides a level of influence that helps to guide and to steer things around. And so as common, the earth sign, or the earth aspect, is in the programming partner, right? So 41 is the programming partner to 31. So when you start looking at arrogance here, understand that what keeps arrogance in a perpetual motion, the programming partner, i.e. the mere opposite of arrogance, is fantasy, right? It's our ability to conceptualize in the mind of dreaming and like wishing it to be a certain way, or I imagine it could be this. You can also lump it in with things such as ignorant optimism, right? Where you can't really see the details of what it would take to do something. You can't really feel into it. You can just like grab the thing at the end of the tunnel and say, that's the thing, and then you charge through, and then you wonder why things went sideways when you did. And sometimes they break apart for a reason. They break down to break through, right? So it's just looking at a process. So the earth energy, we've got Earth and Aquarius. So along this yellow column here on the left-hand side is all of the information of what planet it's in, what the planet is representing, the date and times that it's spanning, as well as what it's moving from and into as far as signs go. So the sign of the sun is going to be in the sign of Leo for this whole next month, right? So we're moving into August. So it's the time of the sun. It's creativity, it's love, it's passion, it's excitement, it's graciousness, it's generosity, right? So there's a deep presence in that way. And the earth aspect is coming from an Aquarian energy. So that Aquarian energy is Aquarius energy is going to be showing up a lot through the things that we're talking about. And that's partly due to the fact that we're moving into the Aquarian era. We're leaving behind the Piscean era, where we've been for a really long time, And we're stepping out of the honoring of the victim, and we're stepping into the embracing of a new earth, a new way of being that comes from a deep understanding of our wounds, of the victim states, narcissistic states. I see them as two kind of ends of spectrums, right? There's no wrong unless you fail to look at it and you start doing damage to others with it. Otherwise, look at both sides of it. Find those inner pieces. And it's the looking at both sides of those pieces that Piscean era taught us to look at where we were hurt. And now the Aquarian era is saying, now look at where you were when you were hurt, and what are you going to do with that energy? What are you going to do next? How are you going to build something new with an even deeper awareness? Right? So this sun and this earth sign, they are going to be only around until the end of July here. See, they end on the 30th of this month. As we move through, I'm going to skip over Mercury for now, just because Mercury, actually, this one goes out as of tomorrow or the end of today. So right now it's in the archetype of the comedian. So that's always a fun little aspect of things. We got a little divine indulgence, divine humor going on in our languaging. When we move to Venus and Mars, again, both of those are going to be through until the end of the month. And for those of you who have been going through a lot lately, you could always backtrack on these dates here and see when something came into being, and that will give you a clue as to maybe where things started to shift in a strange way for you, or in a way that was noticeable. So we've got Mars and Venus, right? We've got our love and our values, we've got our conflict and our growth. We have Venus, who's moving from Leo, which it was quite comfortable in Leo. It was very happy, was very bright and brilliant, and things were a yummy connection. And now we're moving into Virgo, where it's about getting down to the details of a thing. What are the details behind how we love, how we do a thing? And we are in the archetype of the father for this. This is Gene Key 40. Okay? This is the will to surrender, and it moves from exhaustion to resolve to divine will. And so that's in a sense the energy of how we are going to be navigating the details of working with Venus and our love system, our love values. It's taking the time to slow down and really develop what you have a resolve about. And it really involves leaning more fully into that lost art of doing nothing, where when you don't have a deep inspiration or you don't have a detail to work on, you give it all a rest and you really step back. Mars, so here's where things start to get a little bit more interesting, right? Mars, conflict and growth, through until the end of this month, or until the end of July. It's also moving from Leo into Virgo, and this is all about getting the details right. So it has a bit of a conflict for the state of perfection aspect going on. And we are in Gene Key 29 for this one. And so our conflict and our growth has a half-heartedness aspect to it that is like, well, I don't really want to go that deep. I don't know if I really want to share on that level. I don't really know if I want, it has a hard time really committing itself to the process of growth. I'm going to drop you down to another piece below this where Mars is currently intersectioning with, where is it? So we have Jupiter, who's in retrograde, that is conjuncting Mars. And I don't want to get too much into all the technical details. I'm giving you just enough so you can feel into what that energy feels like for you, and then dive into what you need to do in your everyday situation. Okay, so remember, simplicity. Mars, conflict and growth. Jupiter, luck and our laws. Jupiter is in a retrograde now. What that retrograde means is that it's revisiting the energies that we experienced for the first 6 months of this year. In the first 6 months of the year, we rushed through a great number of energies. And now that energy is slowing back down, and we're revisiting it for the purpose of cleaning up, tidying it, perfecting what we were experiencing during that time. And it gets shifty when you've got Mars that's coming in with that conflict and that growth. So it's conflict and growth that is really stimulating our need to look at how we earn our luck, right? How we move through the world in such a way that we give ahead of ourselves so that as we go, the way is being moved open. And in that giving, there is never, the giving depends on our ability to give from a full vessel. If we're giving from an empty vessel, or we are giving for the sake of receiving alone, then that becomes something that gives us sort of this negative combination that ends up being something that we have to clean up later, that we have to unravel, right? And that's not a problem. It's just where we are in that process, right? And both Mars and Jupiter are in 29 and 30, which are programming partners of each other. And so that's half-heartedness and desire. And desire, they have it here as a shadow. It's desire as nature's greatest con, where it is as desire is the thing that makes us do the things. Oops, I'm getting some feedback here. Oh, it went away. Okay. Where was I? Oh, so desires. Where desire pulls us off track, where desire takes us away from where we need to be going. It is also through our desires that we are being taught about the values of the codes that we want to develop moving forward. For me, here on the mountain, this has been a really profound piece, because in building a code for the mountain, we've been building Hermitville codes. Inside of the Hermitville, there are now multiple clans that each have their own offshooting of different code that they work with. That is like an accountability or an agreement system where they choose with the whole group of everybody to be a part of things in a certain way, to have things move in a certain way. You know, it's less about rules and dogmatic and hierarchical as instead more of a lateral development. Being able to take things that we learn from our desires, that we learn from our half-heartedness, and turn them into how we're going to be committed and how we're going to show up in a place of lightness. The commitment and the lightness is what's on the other end of that half-hearted and desire as far as the gifts go. Right? In those two, we've got water and the fire. We've got the water goddess as an archetype and the fire starter as an archetype. These are two very deeply entwined keys that are working with two deeply entwined planets inside of this energy system. And we're going to touch back on Mars a little bit later as well. Saturn. So I'm going to do kind of the Saturn and Uranus together, because right now there's also a Saturn and Uranus dance that's going on in the sky, where Saturn, who is the teacher and the challenges and the rigid and the structure and the old ways of doing things, and this is the way it must be done, and this is what you're going to experience, is literally in an opposition. So it's in a place of sort of a confrontation with the energy of Uranus, which is the energy of catalyst. This is non-rigidity. This is the complete. So Saturn and Uranus are as opposite as they could possibly be. And when you use this parallel with the world at large, or even inside of yourself, your family, your community structure, look for the things that are in deep opposition. Old ways, Saturn. New ways, Uranus. Rigid structure, Saturn. Freedom, Uranus. How we're going to be shifting between those two dynamics. And that shift of the dynamics is part of what's showing up in the Aquarian era. Notice that the Saturn is in Aquarius. Currently Uranus is in Taurus. So we got a little bit of that bullheaded, gonna put my head down and we're gonna charge through this situation. So Uranus's catalytic energy has a force behind it right now that it doesn't normally have, right? It's not often in that. And that to boot is that Uranus is in line 2. So it's the feminine. It is that most potent receptive energy. Its shadow is dislocation. It doesn't know where it is. It feels lost. It feels abandoned. It feels like it has been beaten, bloodied, and dragged out into the desert and left there. On the other end of that experience is the orientation, the ability to ground into one's being, accept reality the way it is. Yep, you've been bloodied and dragged out into the desert and left there. What do you need to do next? Right? It's not getting lost in it's not getting lost in the emotions behind it. And that's not to come from a compassionless place, because what do you have to do before you can get to the point of saying, what's next? What do I need to do? You need to sit down and have yourself a good cry. You need to really let yourself feel so that you can move on. Bottling of the emotions is no longer an option, because if we do that, we are not going to have the fuel to move forward. That's the beautiful thing with this too, being the feminine. It's highly emotional to a certain degree. And that emotion is its own deep catalyst. Yes, my baby, come on up here. You come join us. Hi, Felix. Mwah. Okay. So Neptune. So if you notice, there's a whole bunch of planets that all have that red R next to them here in the column. And that means all those planets are in retrograde. Neptune's spirit work. Neptune, our spirit work, is through turbulence right now. It's through deeply being human. The more deeply we express what it is to be human and surrender to it, the more easily that spirit can move down and settle into our being, or rise up through us, right? So it's really about, our spirit work is really right now about being human. What does that look like? This is a place where there is no amount of bypassing that is going to be supportive. Delving deep into and not getting lost in our emotions are going to be the thing that gives us that work that allows us to use that catalytic energy of Uranus, use the teachings and the trainings and the challenges from Saturn to help us move forward. Pluto, our spiritual rebirth, again, that one's in retrograde. That one works from a spectrum from the shadow's psychosis to the gift of inspiration. Okay, and before you get too lost in the psychosis side, do look at the archetype of the mystic. Any mystic archetype is going to be one who lives a little bit on the edge, right? It's because they have this pressure to answer the question of why. So in order to answer the question of why, we have to deeply delve into all of the pieces that are part of that, right? This is they call this gene key the Holy of Holies, because it is a deep, deep surrender into crazy and finding a way through, finding a purpose, finding matter that makes it matter, right? If we can find a way to let our pain matter and make matter from it, as in create with it, make art with it, make love with it, create with it, then we are taking that power back. It's no longer lost to the crazy aspect. We have used one of the most powerful tools at our disposal to create something anew. And that's what Pluto's spiritual rebirth is all about right now. Chiron, our wound. This one has been around since April, and it will continue to be present until about October. Just as a quick reminder, it's the archetype of the manager, right? A noble life. It is the demise of hierarchy. We are in the demise of hierarchy key that is in the Chiron wound, and it's all around control. The dilemma is discipline. It's being a victim of the need to be in control. And it moves from submissive to controlling, back and forth. I am controlling and defending my territory, whether that territory be relationships, how you might want to feel, your mental bandwidth, your emotional bandwidth, all of it. And it's teaching us this for the purpose of authority, the authority of submission, right? Where is our power, and who's holding it? Our sovereignty and our agency is something that is born out of this key, this 21 key. All right, couple notes of things that are either happening now or coming up. We've got a new moon coming up on August 8th. It's going to be in Leo, 16 degrees, so it's like midway maturity-wise. And the question here is, where are you planting the seeds of this new creativity? What kind of soil are you planting it in with? Where is it aiming towards? So it's asking you to look at your creativity, your passion, your connections, your heart energy, and ask where you're planting the seeds for the future. That's our starting energy for the new moon, beginning energy. The full moon, more towards the end of the month, is going to be in Aquarius. All right, so it's going to be whatever you are trying to finish and let go of, wrap up around the Aquarian energy. Let's see, what other things do I want to actually speak to in this moment? We spoke about that one already. Uranus square Saturn. Yeah, we spoke about that one too. So today, Sun is conjuncting Mercury. So we've got that communication aspect in Leo, and it's opposing Saturn that's in Aquarius. But in short, what you really want to be focusing on is being aware of where your thinking is getting blown up, where there's too much going on, you got too many streams of thoughts and things you think you should be doing. Stop and do one thing. And that will help to keep you from spinning while that alignment is being present. And that's going to be around, I do believe, today and tomorrow. One note that I do really want to spend just a hot minute on, and I will be sharing this with you guys in the Discord for anybody who wants to come back and use this tool. Therius key alignments. And thank you, Amanda, for doing the tracking and pulling the dates for all of this, because this is really helpful to be able to share with the community. Therius is an element that exists in the cosmology that isn't often talked about. It's one of the very few elements within astrology, astronomy, that doesn't necessarily have a pretty light side to it. Therius is the hunter-stalker. It is the predation energy. It's predatory energy. And it is predatory energy for the satisfaction of the kill. Okay? So what our power is in these times when you see these alignments is to be aware of it. When we are met with predation energy, it needs to be looked in the eye and asked what it wants. Because when you meet it, it can no longer stalk. It's been seen. When you ask it what it wants, it can no longer hunt, because now it must answer. Right? So, and even, especially because this is a room that is largely women, in this day and age, in this time of where that energy is very strong, the more we see it in the world around us, see it in our own relationships, and have a clue where it exists in the astrology aspect of it, the more we can pay attention to it. It's simply the energy of predation, which is a lack of consent. It is it's a sabotage. And remember, this predation energy can exist inside of yourself, and it can also exist outside of you with others. And so be aware that it is a mutual thing. So for some people, the energy of Therius can literally show up as physical accidents. Things that can, you slip on a puddle of water that really wasn't there 10 seconds ago, and now you've smashed your head, and a set of knives fell off the top of the cupboard and came down at you. That would be the kind of similarity, energy-wise, that Therius is, right? It can also happen mentally, emotionally, in relationship. There's all sorts of dynamics. There's a couple here that I want to touch on. Some of these have already passed. So we're already past the July 20th, the 26th. So there was an alignment that was going on today, right? So Therius, Mars with Leo, conjuncting Therius. This is about looking at yourself and the people that you care about. So really paying attention to where inside yourself is there something lurking. And all you have to do is look it in the face and ask it what it wants. And you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be hostile. It's just a willingness to see it, right? And to ask it. Tomorrow, again, it's going to be active. And this one is going to be with Ceres. So Ceres and Taurus. Ceres is the mother. Can also be the mother smotherer. So it can be the overly nurturing aspect of things. Nurturing leading to parasitic attachments, where what you really want is a no strings attached form of nurturing. You want to be present because you want to be present, not because you're trying to get something from it. And I tell you, these are energies that are very very sneaky in a way. They are not things that you're necessarily going to see straight on. But when you understand how we can be influenced by these energies, as well as influenced by our past, by our conditioning, all of a sudden we start to be able to see things with more real eyes. And then we realize what's going on and what's holding our power back. Sometimes that's us. Sometimes we hold our own power back by not really seeing clear, by not seeing with real eyes. Sometimes we give our power over to another by doing the same thing, just in a reverse way. Right? We've got July 30th, the moon, 29 degrees of Aries, trines Therius, 29 degrees of Leo, and Ixion. And Ixion is the tyrant. Okay, so we've got the tyrant and the hunter-stalker. They're going to be in a mutual alignment. This is a day that to use great caution, especially physically. Okay? Be aware of things that are going on in the world. Like that might be a day where I just, kind of lay low. I think I'm actually traveling that day, so that'll be interesting. It's a day to respond and not react, to slow way down. July 31st, Jupiter, 29 degrees of Aquarius, retrograding Therius at 29 degrees of Leo. Both of those are higher degrees. So when you see higher degrees in astrology, it just means, think of it as more mature. Lower degrees, less mature. Let me explain what that means. More mature means more elite, refinest way of being. Okay? So if we're talking in a level of arrogance, it could be a very refined arrogance, whereas an immature arrogance might be very blatant, right? So just because we see an older sign does not necessarily mean that's going to be the wise, the mature one that we should always follow, because sometimes it can still be hiding something in a very elitist sort of way. And that's what this day is here on the July 31st. We've got 29 degrees Aquarius, 29 degrees of Leo. So we've got Aquarius, new world, new way of being. We've got Leo, heart energy, creativity, right? And those are going to be in a dynamic that are going to show us where we need to learn and grow deeper awareness. So it's a day to watch. Watch with more than just your physical eyes. Watch with your heart. Watch with your body. Watch with your senses. Watch with your eyes and your ears. And be really tuned in to things that come across in a very twisted sort of way. And it may do so very subtly. August 1st, Therius is trining with Leo, and Ixion, the tyrant, again in Sagittarius. And this day is going to have a lot of pressure from authority going on. So we have a whole rundown from July 28th all the way to August 1st that is going to be kind of one day after the other, is hit after hit after hit. And if we want to coast in this time, we can either drop beneath what is going on, and it doesn't mean we shut off, it just means that maybe we don't engage as much, right? Especially if we're low on energy or we've got things that we need to tend to. If we are going out and being active and being involved in things and our energy is becoming brighter, do understand that sometimes the brighter energy is going to attract the dark more. And that please, that does not mean run for the closet. It means maybe bring an umbrella and a squirt gun and a couple of friends and, some sunglasses so you can watch from behind sunglasses and pay really close attention. This is not to scare anyone. This is to make people be aware so that awareness can help to give us more power back into our own worlds. There's a few other alignments, August 4th, 12th, 22nd. Like I said, I don't want to read each one of these things because unless there's somebody who's actually taking notes who wants them, I will send them in the Discord and you can have this whenever you want to look at it. One last piece in this whole bit is there's a dwarf planet called Eris that is currently in Aries. It has been in Aries for about the past 20 years and will be there for the next 540 years. Every child that is born in this energy right now will be in this energy for the next half a century. Eris is the goddess of chaos and discord. She's a street fighter. She wants everyone's voice to be heard, especially the ones who have been marginalized. Right? All the ones who have not had a voice. She's a street fighter for that cause. She wants justice. and she's the patron saint of chaotic creation. So it's not just chaos for chaos's sake alone, it is for creation. Think of it as disintegration, right, a tearing down that leads to a pre-matter state. We go back to basic building blocks of energy so that then we can begin to build the whole thing in a newer way, right? Yeah. Another last piece with all that is remember that the future is not set. We are always creating our reality as we go along. Some of the deepest pieces of, people often ask, well, this is great information. What's the practicality behind it? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? The medicine, like it normally is really, really simple. Be in your body. Be in your heart. Hug a dog. Hug a tree. Find beauty in the world. Whatever it takes to be able to connect with your body. It is in our bodies that we accept and receive the neutrino streams that come from the galaxy that we are in, right? The neutrino streams is part of the scientific aspect behind astrology. So if we want to be able to learn and grow in these times, we need to be in our bodies with a deep awareness. And that means our minds become the observational tool that looks at the body and sees what's going on. But we are not being run by the mind, right? I'm going to run through this really quick practice here for a moment. If you're present and you're still here, I want you to close your eyes for a minute. I want you to put your hands on your body and your chest. And I want you to tap on your chest, just alternating. This practice, just this simple tapping. Yes, there's the tapping techniques for freedom, the EFT. There's a whole process for tapping. But for the simplicity of it, just to activate the right and left side of your brain at the same time so it'll start listening to you, I just want you to tap on either side of your chest while we're talking here. Keep your eyes closed just for a moment. I want you to feel what's happening on the other side of your fingertips inside your body. You feel that thud on your bones? If you're on mute and you want to just like, just hum for a minute and feel that vibration that's happening because of strumming on your body. What I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to feel your body from inside of your skin. Drop out of the mind. Just let it go for a moment. Wiggle your toes. Feel the seat that you're on. Maybe you've got a numb bum. And this next moment, I want you to just very gently open your eyes, nice and slow. I just want you to look around you with curiosity. Look at the textures in the room, the colors, the lighting. See it as magical. See it as, oh, that's really kind of cool. Like you're seeing it for the first time. Listen to the sounds around you. If you're inside and you're hearing a fan, listen to that. Or the sounds of people. Or if you're outside, birds, traffic, animals, crickets. One by one, tune into your senses. Now in this moment, I want you to gently and politely ask that brain that you asked to step aside a moment ago to step back in and just observe your body. So now it's your mind, your personality is sitting alongside of your body going, oh, okay, yeah, that's what they're feeling. See them as separate and working together, with the body leading the way. It's a simple practice that you can come back to. For a lot of people, I find they don't have to do it that often. Once they recognize the pattern of how they plug in where their mind is going and observing the body, it's a lot easier to get back to. to do it in a moment. Come back into yourself. Body awareness, mind awareness. Together, here we go. That is probably one of the biggest pieces that I can see being helpful to people moving forward. Because that gets you to be able to be in your heart. Another one would be listening to the Heart Sutra, listening to music that pulls you into your heart, makes you love more, makes you let go of the things you desire. Love is not what we desire. That's fish love. Love is deep appreciation. It is a abiding presence. It has I am bringing my fullness forward. And that is what we need to move through these very challenging times. That's really the simplicity behind it all. Behind all the degrees and the conjunctions and the numbers and the thises and the that's is the really deeply being present. For some of us, it is very helpful to have that mental organization of what is going on. For others, it is more important to know what to do. If you work with the human design side of things and you have a head, an ajna, or just ajna defined in you, it might be very helpful for you to study these sorts of things because it can give you a process by which you can learn to identify, I now need this practice. I now need this tool, because that's what your personality and your mind is designed to do, right? If it's not and it's wide open, that might not necessarily always be helpful. So this point in time is really important to reach for the right tools. Not that any of the tools are wrong, just the tools that are going to get us where we need to be the quickest. The quickest one is to get in your body first. Get in your body and get your mind on board with observing your body so that it can be there to make the right decisions that are right for you. It is our body that gets us into things, and it is our mind that helps us keep track of the things that we learn in that experience.